Hello folks. Today we're going to talk about building an EMP box to protect your electronic devices from electromagnetic pulse. Now, while EMP is not high on my list of disasters, I was intrigued by the number of videos that I found on YouTube and the number of people saying it works or it doesn't work, using an ammo can, using a trash can. I'm not really here to argue about the merits of that. If you really want to dig into that, there is a channel by Disaster Prepper. He actually has some testing equipment where he's done testing on different ways to build an EMP box. What I want to focus on here is just some real simple ways that you can put a box together if you feel the need. And I'm going to show you two different ways to go about doing that. And you can do it with some real simple supplies. So first, what we're going to go over is what this video is not, the basics of creating an EMP box, the supplies that you're going to need, how to do it, and then I'm going to show you several examples that I have built. So first, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go into how prevalent you think an EMP pulse is, how high it should be in your list of priorities, nor am I going to go into, why a trash can works, why you need screen, or all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to show you is a box that works, right? Not going to argue about radios and walkie-talkies and the different tests. Again, if you want to see those different things, bounce over to Disaster Prepper's channel. He has some really good videos to show you that this will in fact work, and this will in fact protect your devices to a fair degree. So the first thing you're going to want to find is a box that seals primarily airtight. Now, I tend to use a lot of Pelican Cases or Hardig or SKB just because in my line of work I tend to have them lying around or I pick them up cheap off of eBay. But another really good source of it is a cooler. Just go out and buy a cheap Coleman or a cheap Igloo cooler. What we're trying to do is get a good seal between the top of your box and the rest of your box so it's metal on metal. So there aren't any cracks or any openings around the box. Because for us, with the materials we have available to us, getting a solid sheet of metal around our devices that we want to protect is going to be the best for us. So once you have your box that you think is going to seal tight and give you a good metal on metal seal all the way around, we're going to need a couple different things. So to actually line the box, we're going to use some heavy duty tinfoil or Reynolds wrap. And we're going to stick it to the inside of the box using some, what I call stickum spray. You can find it at Staples, you can find it at Office Max. Basically think of it as super glue in an aerosol form. Now, when this stuff comes out, it does tend to fog up a bit. So you're going to want to make sure that you do it in a very well ventilated space. I would recommend outdoors. I would not recommend it inside your house. You'll also notice that as you begin to spray, your forearms may begin to feel a little bit sticky because it does tend to bounce back from the surface you're trying to get it to stick to. So because of that, I tend to wear a mask and then also safety glasses for it. So once you find your box or your cooler, so I have a cooler lid here that I can show you guys. I would spray that with my stickum spray. And then I would proceed to kind of wallpaper it with the tinfoil. Now, the tinfoil you don't have to get to cover all in one sheet. That's what's great about tinfoil. You don't really have to cut it, you can just rip it. It's going to stick to wherever you got the stickum spray, so make sure you coated all the inside surfaces of your box. But then you use a metal foil tape to stick the pieces of tinfoil together where it overlaps. So generally I recommend that you overlap by a couple inches, and I'll show you that in a couple of my examples. The one thing that you want to pay careful attention to are the edges of your box where the top and the bottom meets to make sure that that contact is metal on metal. I think that's why some people fail when they do the ammo can, because they have that rubber gasket that's in there and that creates an opening all the way around the top of the can. And some of the garbage cans really don't seal all that tight, so you can get some things in there. The other way of doing it in a smaller scale is using this copper tape here. You will find that if you go out on Amazon.com, you can get this in different widths. It has a conductive glue on the back. It's got a little bit of paper that you got to peel off there. But musicians use it to shield the electronics on their instruments to get rid of ground buzz. So it is created to do shielding. So that's one of the ways we do it. However, it can be a little bit expensive. So buying enough rolls of this to cover the inside of a cooler might be a little bit beyond some folks' price range. Again, the whole idea of this video is doing something that works and also doing something that's cheap. Okay, so fairly simple. You take your stickum spray, you spray the inside of your box with it. It's going to coat the entire inside with basically a rubber cement stickiness. You then take your tin foil and you roll that out, doing it to different sizes. You don't have to have one solid sheet, you just have to make sure it overlaps. Where it overlaps, use your metal foil duct tape. Again, metal foil duct tape, not the plasticky kind, to tape down the different edges of tin foil to each other. And it's fairly simple. Now, once you do that, the key to an EMP box is whatever you stick inside it has to be insulated from the metal foil, meaning that you can't lay it right on your tin foil, you can't lay it on the metal tape. What you generally will want is to find another box. A plain old cardboard box will work. But in my case, since I'm using Pelican cases a lot of the time, they'll come with foam already inside of them for insulation, or you can buy the foam that's already static treated so it will not pass on an electric charge to them. So now I'm going to clear all this off the table, and I'm going to show you a couple different examples of EMP boxes that I've put together, that I've tested, that generally my cell phone, once you stick it inside it, doesn't work. When you stick a radio inside of it, it doesn't work. Walkie-talkies, by their nature, are not a good device to be using to test EMP boxes because we're trying to degrade the signal. We can't necessarily eliminate it, but we're going to get it down such that hopefully it wouldn't damage our equipment. Again, go to Disaster Prepper. He's got a great thing on that. So 1 second while I clear this off, and we'll come back and I'll show you some different samples. Okay, this is the first example here. This is a small Pelican Case, 1020 for those who are curious to see what type it is. This generally I use to put my cell phone in it, or I have a small ham radio, handheld, that I can put inside this. And you can see this here is the copper tape around the edges as I brought it out under the box. So these are the copper edges. This was a rubber insert that insulates the contents from the copper surface. And then on the lid, you can see a little bit more of the copper and more of the rubber that helps insulate the device that's inside it. Again, notice copper around all the edges so that when I close the box, I get a metal on metal seal, which helps make it so that it's a complete metal box that the device is in. So this is a small example using the copper tape. Again, there's copper tape underneath all this rubber here, and it's overlapping about 1/4 inch. And again, the glue that they use on the copper tape is somewhat conducting, so that you get the solid metal surface to shield your electronics that you're going to stick into it. So I'm going to go and get example number 2 for you guys to look at. So this is sample number 2. This is a Pelican Case where I have coated the bottom and the lid with the metal foil. You can see the metal foil all down in there. And then, couldn't cover in a complete sheet. That would have been too hard to do. So I'd use smaller pieces, but then wherever I made sure the pieces overlapped, and then I used the tin foil or the metal tape, the metal duct tape, in order to connect the pieces of foil together. Notice also the lip edges where it's going to come in contact with the top of the box. There's all solid sheet of tin foil over that to make sure that I'm getting good metal on metal contact. And then the nice thing about the using an SKB case is it comes with foam. So I just stick my foam back in here, and I do this, and it will insulate whatever I want to stick inside the box. Now again, I could have used a smaller cardboard box or put some cardboard in here to basically, you want to make sure your contents don't touch that metal surface. Okay, I'm going to show you one last example where the surface is a little bit more complex and getting things to stick. So 1 second while I get that one for you. Okay, this is sample number 3. This is an SKB case, and you can see the surface of this box does have some strange ridges and bumps that then transfer to the inside of the box with strange surfaces and bumps. So again, the issue isn't trying to get stuff to cover in one sheet. There's a lot of different pieces of tinfoil that are in here so that it's flat to the surface, but I made sure they overlapped with the other pieces of the heavy tinfoil, and then I used the metal duct tape again to make sure that they were connecting well. So you can see I've got some strange surfaces in there, making sure everything is good. So this is a bigger box that you could stick stuff into. So again, this was an experiment to see, okay, could I do it? And you know, as you scaled up from small box to medium box to large box, how would it work? Again, I made sure my metal edges, my tinfoil came up and overlapped on my metal edges, top and bottom. And again, I have a foam insert that I can stick in here, and I can protect everything that, you know, so it's not going to protect the edges. Now, there is one last thing. I said I was going to talk too much about the electromagnetic theory. You hear people say, oh, you know, my box has to be grounded, that kind of stuff. The only thing that I would think about is basically, for those of you who know electronics, we're taking a plastic outside, a metal surface, and then another non-conducting surface on the inside. We basically created a huge capacitor. So that's why people, I believe, ground some of these. Again, I would direct the question to disaster prepper. But if ever there is an electromagnetic pulse, I'm not going to touch one of these boxes right away. I'm going to ground it to bleed off any charge. Think of it as like the metal doorknob in the middle of a door. When you walk up to it and you get a shock off of it, probably not such a good thing that you want to do. If you're really paranoid, and I'm not, but I was just testing and having some fun as I was building these, you can build your box. It's fairly cheap. The cost of a can of Stickum spray and a box or a cooler or something to put it in, you should be able to do this for, you know, 30 to 40 bucks. But then, you know, some people say, hey, just wrap it in several layers of tinfoil. So I'm like, hey, you know, I still got the roll of tinfoil. Why not wrap it up a little bit more? Drop my little emergency radio in there. Bob's your uncle. Nothing's getting in. So just, again, a real simple way of making an EMP box. Again, not really something that's top on my list, but I was curious about all the arguments going on between trash cans and ammo cans. An ammo can's not really that big to put stuff in. In a trash can, I really don't want to be lugging around in a disaster scenario or something along those lines. But say an SKB case, this thing looks like a briefcase, except for the little silver line of the metal foil that's going around on it. Or the other travel case that I have, it just looks like a regular little travel case that you might see at the airport for somebody transporting some things. So again, very easy to do, very simple materials. Have fun with it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it works for you. I know for me, with my testing and the heavy duty tinfoil that I used, I could drop a radio into it, would immediately go to static. I could drop my cell phone into it, and immediately you would roll the voicemail, you wouldn't hear it ring, you wouldn't be able to be found. I kind of had mixed results with walkie-talkies, but again, looking at what Disaster Prepper had put together, and some of the equipment that he has that's available to him, it kind of made sense to me why some walkie-talkies would work. But again, the statement that that's not really a good a good example of what would or wouldn't work or how the different radio waves get blocked. But again, hopefully you found this kind of fun. Go find yourself some tinfoil, a cooler, or a box that you want to use, and let me know if it works for you. Hope you guys have a good day and have some fun. Bye.